On August 29th, 2005, Hurricane Katrina slammed into the Louisiana coastline. Her winds pushed surge water toward New Orleans, a city that is mostly below sea level and depends on its levees for its protection. The extreme floodwaters put pressure on those levees, and they breached. Approximately 85% of New Orleans was now underwater, and thousands of people were trapped. Many were unable to evacuate and had to ride out the storm in their homes, boats, or designated shelters such as the Superdome. The mix of hurricane winds and flooding devastated all infrastructure. New Orleanians were becoming increasingly desperate for help. City, state, and federal officials were unprepared for the scale of the disaster. But there was a ray of hope. The United States Coast Guard was ready, and during those next few critical weeks following the storm, these men and women went on to save more than 30,000 lives, making it the single biggest search and rescue operation they had ever conducted. You know, there's an old saying in the Coast Guard. Some might even call it the unwritten motto. When lives are at stake, no matter what the call, the book says you have to go out. But it doesn't say anything about coming back. There may be no better depiction of this than the Coast Guard's response to Hurricane Katrina. We now look back 20 years ago at the air crews that flew over the city of New Orleans during what was most assuredly one of the Coast Guard's finest hours.
What was the hardest thing you had to do during the storm, or what was the most difficult task you faced?
The most difficult task that I faced was more of a personal situation. When I came home, well, first off, my house was kind of destroyed during the hurricane, so I was living with my wife's first cousin, and I came back to that house, and my wife was a little upset, and I didn't understand why she was upset. I was tired. I just wanted to go to sleep, and I said, "What's wrong?" And she told me that she was worried about her mom. I'm sorry, you guys.
You know, this is our business in the Coast Guard. It's all about hurricane season and preparing for hurricanes.
That's why we're here. That's why we serve. And that's why we all joined the Coast Guard, was to save lives. When Hurricane Katrina came along, that is what we had been training for years. And we were ready, we were prepared, stepped up to the plate, and as a result, many thousands and thousands and thousands of lives were saved.
We flew
Guys, open the window out. There's two elderly people on there.
hours that we had never flown before, at rates we'd never flown before, and conducted risky hoisting operations in the numbers that folks will never see in their entire career.
Get them up here quick, John. Roger, sir. I'm hurrying. Passage coming up.
All of those Coast Guard men and women who came to New Orleans went above and beyond the call of duty.
You've been superb, been magnificent. This is the greatest, sustained, intense, most successful rescue operation in Coast Guard history.
In the summer of 2005, we'd already had several hurricanes enter the Gulf of Mexico. The difference with Hurricane Katrina was once we had about 48 hours prior to landfall, it was clear that we were going to have a probable Cat 5 hurricane strike very close to, if not directly on, the city of New Orleans. We knew this was going to be a big one, and our main concern really was our air station going to be destroyed? We wanted to be able to immediately do rescue operations following the storm. We decided the safest place to evacuate would be to the west, just beyond the storm wind's reach. We sent 2 helicopters to Houston, 3 helicopters to Lake Charles shortly before the hurricane made landfall.